Go ahead and call this meeting to order. We are the Metropolitan Area Planning Board of Directors. This meeting will be conducted in compliance with the Nebraska statutes of the Opens Meeting Act. For reference, the Opens Meeting Act is posted on the wall of the boardroom. Agenda item A is our roll call. Liz?
Mayor John Ewing.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mike Friend.
Here.
Mayor Rusty Height.
Here.
Mayor Doug Pindick.
Here.
Commissioner David Klug.
Here.
Councilmember Don Rowe.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Shea.
Aye.
Mayor Jill Shudak. Here. Mayor Angie Winquist.
Here. And Keith, I did not know who you were. Do you want to just give a short introduction of who you're representing and what you do?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Keith Station, City of Omaha Mayor's Office. I serve as Deputy Chief of Staff for External Affairs. Happy to be here in Mayor John Ewing's stead and also instead of Jacqueline Morrison. Will do my best to fill in and be a productive member at this meeting today. Thank y'all for allowing me to be here.
And Keith serves MAPA as chair of our Regional Planning Advisory Committee in his normal course of his day job as
Yes,
well.
thank you.
So
Thank
very
you.
involved already.
All right. Moving on then, could I have a motion for approval of the agenda? Second, Brandon.
And we need to add that.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Can you revise your motion for the approval of the agenda to move item H1 to the next? We'll just do it after the approval of the agenda so that those individuals don't have to be here the entire meeting. Yep, and the second, okay with that also?
Yes.
Okay. Liz, you want to take a vote, please?
Yeah. Station,
Yes.
Garcia, or sorry, Friend,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shea.
Aye.
Shudak,
Yes.
Winquist. Yes. Pindick.
Yes, and under item H, new business, item number 1 is our 2025 audited financial statement. Matt, did you want to lead that off? If not, we've got representatives from Ide Bailey here who will present it to the board.
That's right. I'll just introduce Darren Austin here from Ide Bailey. He's been here the last 3 years.
Yeah, this is year number 4.
Year number 4.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hooking me up too. That's very, very kind. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, so my name's Darren Osen. I'm a partner in the.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, if you zoom out, Kristen, that should work now. There we go.
I'll just have you can use advances, all right? Because it's not, all right, thank you. So, yes, my name's Darren Osen, I'm partner with Ide Bailey. This is our 4th year of performing your financial statement audit and your audit in accordance with the uniform guidance, the single audit. So just want to say thank you, appreciate the opportunity to continue to provide services to you. We're going to go through the required communications and the audit results. We went over the draft reports with the Budget and Audit Committee on the 18th, and they motioned to approve it for this meeting. So there you go, thank you. So our required communications, significant matters related to the conduct of the audit. Our audits are conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and then government auditing standards, where we report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance with laws and regulations that would affect the financial statements. And then you also have to have an audit in accordance with the uniform guidance because you expend more than $750,000 in federal awards. That threshold has now moved up to $1 million. But you expended 3.4 million, so well over that threshold. With that audit, we test major program compliance and internal control over compliance with those program compliance requirements. Our responsibility is plan to perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from misstatement, whether caused by error or fraud, and then we can express an opinion on compliance with those major program requirements. Our significant accounting practices, your significant accounting policies are disclosed in note 1 to the financial statements. There were a couple of new standards this year that were included in the financial statements. Neither one of them really had a material impact. What's measured as a compensated absence changed with GASB Statement 101. And so that accounting policy on page 21 of the audit report was revised a little bit different. And then GASB 102 required some additional disclosures related to risks affecting your financial statements, and that was resulted in some revisions to note 14 on page 30 of the audit report, but ultimately didn't change any of the numbers, just some changes in some of the disclosures. No real accounting estimates in your financial statements, so that takes some of the judgment out of your financial statements. We don't really have any particularly sensitive or significant judgment in any of the disclosures in your financial statements either. And then we're required to disclose whether we had any difficulties or disagreements encountered during the audit process. I just want to thank Amanda and Matt and their team for all their help in the audit process. Very cooperative, allowed us to get things done timely and be ready to go for these presentations. So no issues there. Is what usually everybody wants to know is, did we have any adjustments? We didn't have any adjustments, so very clean audit. And what that basically says is the interim financial statements that you're getting can be relied upon. We're not having to make significant adjustments at the end of the year as a result of our audit. We do have a few reclassifications that we make for reporting purposes, primarily to separately report amounts due to and from other governments as a separate line item were combined with receivables and payables in the internal financial statements. We had one past adjustment, or one what's called uncorrected misstatement. So it's an item we found that we did not reflect in the financial statements, and that was the adoption of GASB 101 for compensated absences and how those are measured. That's supposed to be retroactively applied to every year. So there should have been a $18,000 change in beginning net position for the effects of that. We did not do that and just ran it through the current year financial statements. Not material to the financial statements, doesn't provide any value to the reader to go through and make that change. So pretty insignificant change. So the balances of your compensated absences are reflected appropriately at the end of the year. And then certain written communications between management and our firm. We do have a management representation letter that will be available if you would want to see a copy of that. So with our audit reports and our reporting, we have various opinion units that we are reporting on. We have government-wide financial statements, which discloses the governmental activities, and then the business type activity. Your business type activities is the foundation. So those are presented on full accrual, and we give a separate opinion on each of those columns in the financial statements. And then we also opine on your major funds, and the general fund being a major fund, and then the foundation is a proprietary fund or a business type fund. Those are the funds that we're reporting on. Again, all of those had a clean or an unmodified opinion. Other reporting matters in the financial statements, you have a required supplementary information, which includes management's discussion and analysis, which provides an intro to the reader of the financial statements that's required by GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board in reporting. And then budgetary comparison schedules for the general fund, as that's the major fund with an legally adopted budget. And then there's other supplementary information, combining statements in the financial statements, both your combining balance sheet and your combining statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. That includes the general fund and then other non-major funds that are combined. And then the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which contains all the federal awards that were expended during the year. We'll touch on that on the next slide. In our reporting on government auditing standards, we had no findings noted, and we had no findings noted on the uniform guidance report, the compliance with the federal major program requirements. So you, as I said, you had 3.4 million in federal awards expended, and then you passed through about 528,000 to subrecipients. So you're having to monitor their compliance with those grants as a pass-through entity. The major program was the Highway Planning and Construction Cluster, and that approximated about 60% of your federal awards expended. So we're testing a pretty significant amount. The requirement for a low-risk auditee is to test at least 40%, so we're well over that threshold. And then we did not have any prior audit findings, so there was no scheduled prior audit findings. So that is it. I will leave it open for questions.
You're saying we had great bookkeeping then, right?
Very, very clean audit. Yes, yes,
So we'd like to hear.
yes.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that. I'm afraid I can remember your first visit here. And the subsequent visits by our other auditors before that. So first of all, I appreciate your thoroughness. I also appreciate your timeliness. But it is a direct reflection upon our finance department. So Matt, to you and your staff, it's always good to hear when there's no adjustments and no warrants or anything like that. So as elected officials, we greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else?
I would just like a special word of thanks to Amanda in particular, because Amanda's job as our fiscal officer is to not just help facilitate the audit kind of during this 4 to 5 month period, but performs that internal audit on, you know, a routine basis. And it is that work I just want to call special attention to, because it is the fundamental piece of all of this, from the financial statements on a monthly basis to the end of the year. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Matt, whole finance team for all the support.
No, no, it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So that is an action item to accept.
Yes, I need a motion to approve.
Motion, second,
Any further questions or discussion? Did you get that, Liz?
Yes.
Please take a vote.
Station.
Yeah.
Brent.
yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Luke.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shay. Shudak. Yes. Lundquist. Yes. Pending.
Yes. Agenda item C, approval of the board minutes from our January 22, 26 meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Liz?
Station.
Yes.
Brent.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Luke.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shay.
Aye.
Shudak. Yes. Lundquist. Yes. Pending.
Yes. Agency reports, Mike?
Certainly. So, did we get it working finally? It's a strange bunker that we have offices in. So happy to give a few updates for this month. At the top of it, just like express a word of thanks for Mayor Shudak and Mayor Kindig, and Mayor Ewing and Jacqueline Morrison from the city of Omaha, who attended the National Conference of Regions with us in Washington, D.C. This is our annual policy conference with the National Association of Regional Councils. And, you know, we took them on quite a trip through federal policy with a large emphasis, I would note, on the transportation bill that's getting reauthorized this year. I did include in your packet of materials here a summary of one bill, which is called the Basics Act, that is really heavily influenced by organizations like NARC, like the League of Cities, like the National Association of Counties, and also the National Association of Development Organizations, which is kind of another regional organization. They call themselves the LOT Coalition, the local officials in transportation, and they're really looking at this round of updates through Congress to try to get the transportation bill to really put local leaders more at the center of that. You know, traditionally these programs are led by the states. It is called the State Federal Aid Program, Federal Aid for States. And there has been, I think, a kind of a continuous rebalancing of that to provide more locals a seat at the table, like through bodies like this, through MPOs, but a lot more access to those resources directly rather than kind of this, you know, competing for funding, more sub-allocation and all of that. And so when we did our congressional visits, we emphasized a lot of those pieces. We met with Senator Ricketts, we met with Senator Grassley, we met with Congressman Flood, or Congresswoman Grassley, excuse me, Senator Grassley's staff. We met with Congressman Flood, Congressman Bacon as well, and just talking through kind of all of those priorities, you know, the importance of HUD programs and all of those things. But I would open it up to Mayor Shudak or Mayor Kindig, who did attend, if you had any other thoughts you'd like to share on that.
No, I've been able to go before. It's a well-run conference, as I was telling Commissioner Klug. It's small enough that you can actually interact with people and see them more than just once and have a conversation with them. It was a great opportunity for me to be able to get to interact with Jill and with John and Jacqueline, and to be honest, his two security guards.
Mhm.
We had some good, interesting conversations, but I'd be curious to hear what Jill thought. That was her first conference.
Yeah, and I was 4 weeks on the job, 5 weeks on the job. From my corporate life, I've been to quite a few conferences. This is probably the second best conference I've actually ever attended. The sessions were concise and short. They kept everybody's attention, great information. We were able then to sit as a team and really interact with each other, and Sue as well. But it was amazing information to get me up to speed to where I need to be, but also then to have participation in the different sessions. Some of those sessions can really drag along and you start to lose everybody. I think out of the 2 days, there was only one session where you could kind of see in the room, and that was because of the partial government shutdown. So they had a pivot the morning of. And I think that the conference did a great job of pivoting, but it was fantastic information.
Yeah, we had a government shutdown and a snowstorm in Washington DC, which are not a recipe for efficiency.
Yeah, and just a quick for everybody here is elected, as elected, we're responsible for every pothole in our city.
Mhm.
And if you don't have the streets cleaned curb to curb in a matter of minutes, then we're not doing our job. So DC had about 8 inches, maybe 6 inches of snow, and then they had a rainstorm and it froze. So we couldn't even walk sidewalks like when we went to the restaurant, when we were walking around the Capitol, it was dangerous. That's the only snow they had. They had to close their school system for 6 days to clear sidewalks.
Mayor Kindig and I were walking in the middle of a street on the way back from a restaurant.
So I tell you all that so that you can pass that on to your constituents when they are driving, that we don't have 2 inches of snow curb to curb by the time they go to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the people from New Hampshire, Massachusetts, they were just laughing at the DC people and their lack of snow removal, so.
Yeah, everybody made a point to let them know that they knew how to remove snow. It was,
Exactly, so.
it was entertaining. Just one additional note, we did attend the Nebraska breakfast, which was a great opportunity to hear from the entire Nebraska delegation. And then Congressman Flood actually introduced himself to our entire congressional breakfast for the whole conference to talk about his leadership on housing issues. His bill, the Housing in the 21st Century Act, passed the House basically the week after we were out there. And so just tremendous leadership there, great conversation, and just really a great way of bringing folks out. And if you're interested, we do have the June conference coming up. It is in Tulsa, so it is pretty close by. But the annual conference moves around every summer. It is an opportunity, again, to kind of have that sort of peer-to-peer exchange with elected officials who are serving on bodies like this, and also just getting a sense of some of those updates from the federal partners, what changes are occurring and what's coming up. So if you are interested, reach out to Christina or I, and we're happy to do that.
Who all goes to that? Anybody on this board?
Anybody on this board? Yeah, anybody on this board. And so staff usually attends as well. And so, yeah, it's a great opportunity just to go through. And again, it's a little bit less formal than the DC policy conference. Obviously, we're not in DC doing those congressional visits, but it's kind of very similar content. And you can get your kicks on Route 66 as they remind us over and over and over and over again. Moving kind of closer to home here, legislative updates, just keeping you apprised of some things that we're monitoring closely. I highlighted last month that in both kind of the draft agency budgets in Iowa and Nebraska, our state funding had been zeroed out. We had a great hearing on LB 1030 on the Nebraska side about a week and a half ago now, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, the 12th. So it was 2 weeks ago. And it was really just great conversation, lots of support from around the state for the work that we do as economic development districts. The Appropriations Committee has kept our funding in their kind of initial markup. We're going to continue to monitor that, but that's a significant impact to our budget. Again, kind of talking just through it, we would get about $120,000 a year from Nebraska in that funding, so it is a substantial amount for us. On the Iowa side, our economic development hearing is actually this next Thursday. And so we're meeting with the subcommittee there to talk about funding to get in Iowa, which is about $300,000 for all 17 councils of government on that side of the river. And so just continuing that partnership, we've had great support from both the House and the Senate over the years, and just kind of continuing that conversation about the work we do alongside all of you and the value of the state's investment in all of that. On the Iowa side, two other things that we're monitoring pretty closely. SF 596, this is kind of the major property tax bill. There is a reference to councils of government in that we are working to understand what exactly they're asking for us to do, but it highlights things that we're already doing, which is, kind of providing shared services, regionalization, just really looking for that opportunity to work alongside members. We've, as a state association, we kind of pulled together some examples of what we do, whether it's joint purchasing or whether it's just, the grant writing staff that we retain on a regular basis, trying to understand more about what the House's priority is in that area. But if you have any feedback on that from, either the county side or the city side, we'd welcome that. I think our side of things is we're just trying to say, well, this is all fine, but we're voluntary associations. Like, we don't really need the state to dictate what happens at the local level. So we're not 100% sure what that looks like, but we're optimistic that at least they see us as part of the solution. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then the other bill that we're monitoring really closely is Senate Study Bill 3074, which, talks about indirect costs, but it seems to conflate indirect costs with administration on grants and contracts. And really, I think, mixes them in some ways, talking about a cap of 5% on indirect costs. I mean, our indirect cost rate is right around 40%, which is not high. The universities are much, much higher. And I think it's kind of conflating those two issues. And so we've had some really good discussion with some of the state agencies on that, but that's one that we're monitoring really closely, because that would have some pretty big impacts to how we have to account for things that have public dollars from Iowa in them. So I bring those up as items there. But again, if you hear things that you'd like us to weigh in on in either house, let us know. We're always happy to look at that. We've got a legislative committee that a number of folks sit on. We meet bi-weekly just to kind of talk through what's happening on the Nebraska side of things. One news story that you may have seen come through, Governor Pillen announced a full NEPA assumption. This is a project that the state of Nebraska has been working on through Nebraska DOT for, about 9 years now. And there's kind of different levels of environmental review for federal transportation projects. And the state had previously taken on kind of the lowest level, where they were making decisions about what we call categorical exclusions. And to do that, they had to really adopt a number of different policies that guide their decision-making, basically to give the federal partners an assurance about how decisions were being made and documenting all of that. With this change, this means that all environmental review decisions are going to be made at the Department of Transportation level, which is a huge change. And I think a positive change. It really, I think, demonstrates the state's leadership in terms of being able to build the capacity of Nebraska DOT to own those things. My hope is that having those point of contacts be state representatives, state employees, that will have hopefully a little bit more, flexibility in how we sort of take those policies and revise them over the years and make them work in support of this project. But I'll just note, even through that categorical exclusion adoption, they've been moving a lot more quickly. They've been able to, I think, streamline some of those processes and take that kind of, 10-year project template and get it down to more of a 7-year timeframe, and even shorter in some instances. So a good change, a big change. You may have seen the headline about, cutting red tape. I mean, this is directly about the funds that we award to our members and that flow through the state on the Nebraska side. So a big change there. We haven't heard anything from Iowa DOT. So we're, I don't know that they're pursuing this or not. They're pretty streamlined already. They do a pretty good job. So I don't know that they might see the whole benefit of all of this. MAPA in the news, there's a number of things. It has been a busy month. When Sue sent me the roll-up, I had some other notes, and I was like, there's just been a lot of stuff going on. Everything from highlighting our TIP amendment that you all approved last month, to Carlos talking on KIOS about the freight plan and some of our project prioritization work that's coming up. La Vista's active mobility plan that MAPA funded and supported, just won an award from ACEC Nebraska. In addition to the public meeting related to the new freeway interchange down in Sarpy County that was held earlier this month. And then kind of in the upper right-hand corner, it's hard to see, but Omaha was designated a bike-friendly community, and our bike-friendly status was increased to silver status in the League of American Bicyclists for our work in support of those things as well. And so it's a bunch of different things going on. And I think this slide, I just hope captures we're active in a number of different places, but if you see our name popping up, those are some of the topics you might see it next to. And then I wanted to just end this section talking a little bit about some context of something you're going to be hearing about really through June of this year. The One Big Beautiful Bill last summer had a framework for making the Opportunity Zones program permanent and also having states redesignate those items. So the governor by June 30th will get to designate new opportunity zones. This is largely a benefit to people who have capital gains and they need a place to park them. Gives them an opportunity to do that through real estate and some other infrastructure investments in specific areas. There wasn't a ton of pickup of this kind of in this first 10-year period. There were a few projects on the Nebraska side that we know of utilized this. But what the administration has really indicated is that every notice of funding opportunity, every federal grant is going to have criteria about the alignment of that project with these opportunity zones or giving special consideration to projects in opportunity zones. And so we're really trying to facilitate through our partners at the Greater Omaha Chamber and bringing the impacted communities to the table. This is the map kind of closer in for the MAPA region. To the table to really think about how do we put our best foot forward. That state context, the governors can only designate about a quarter of them. And so we don't want to say, well, just give us whatever. We want to be very specific about our priorities and just doing that in a collaborative way. And it's a good opportunity for us to just build on, again, the table that we have built for kind of cross-sectoral collaboration, bringing the chamber folks in, bringing local government folks in, bringing in some of those other community-based organizations that have a role in this, and really just trying to tell the story about to the state partners about where these dollars can make the most sense. This map includes all of the eligible zones for the MAPA region. They are all urban, so there's kind of an urban-rural distinction. We don't have any rural eligible districts on either the Iowa or Nebraska side. And the communities of Omaha, Ralston, Boys Town, Council Bluffs, and Bellevue have tracks that are eligible as well. And so we've been meeting with those groups, just trying to make sure that they know this process is coming and just making sure that we can put our best foot forward as a region. And that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions before I go into the next item as well. Okay.
Thank you.
So
This is for improving roads.
no, it's a tax. So it is a tax structure. So it is basically a program to allow people to get a tax benefit for making specific kinds of real estate investments and infrastructure investments. And it's complicated. It's very complicated. Last time there was a project in Omaha and a project in Ralston that used this to, as part of like mixed use redevelopment type of projects. What the administration has signaled though is that they want these to be more aligned with federal priorities than they had been in the past. So when we go and apply for HUD funding or DOT funding, there will be criteria or bonus points in some ways that if they're aligned with an opportunity zone. And so part of the conversation we want to have with folks is, let's think about this kind of in its totality. Where do these things overlap that are kind of sure things that we want to make sure are designated, and where maybe are we going to be looking for federal funding over the next 10 years? Because these will be designated for 10 years and want to make sure it aligns with kind of those local priorities. So all this is to say that it is really a program about tax benefits and kind of making sure that in disinvested communities that there is an opportunity for those capital gains to be invested towards certain goals. That's kind of the main core of the program. The administration has signaled, and we heard it at the conference quite a bit, that opportunity zones will also be a priority kind of criteria around federal funding. That's where our kind of view is, let's make ourselves as competitive as we can where we have local priorities. So that's the process we're facilitating. There's no funding specifically with it. They're just saying they're going to align funding with these priorities. Kind of a strange, it's hard to wrap your head around. It's hard to wrap my head around. So each year we put together that budget schedule. We presented this last month. We talked a little bit about our dues request and kind of setting that stage for our budget development. This month we go through our member survey. So we had this open from November until February. I'm just going to kind of highlight some key takeaways. If you want the full presentation on this and kind of our full work program, we do that at our Council of Officials meeting in March, but I wanted to give the board a bit of a preview here of what we had done. So 23 total responses. This is crazy, but it is about average. It's a little above average, honestly, for what we normally get. We normally get about 19 or 20 responses. This year we had about 23, and really a good split between Iowa and Nebraska. I think one thing that I wanted to highlight, I actually broke out some of the smaller communities and villages in this because we had a great turnout from a number of small communities in Pot and Mills County, in addition to Cass County that took the time to complete the survey. So all the way to the city of Omaha, so we had really good response kind of across the spectrum of communities that MAPA serves, in addition to some partners like special purpose units of government, our higher ed partners, and then one nonprofit as well. And so, just the key takeaways I draw your attention to when we asked about different topics, this is kind of from the thing we heard the most about to the thing we heard the least about. We heard interest in all of these, but I highlighted the top three because these have been pretty consistent over the last several years. Housing has just rocketed to the top priority that we hear from everybody about. And I will say, that's not an area that we have been super active in the past. And it's something that we're always looking for our role in. We just did a market value analysis that we've talked about, of playing a role in kind of the data pieces of things. And the board last budget year, you approved us to do a strategic plan around the MAPA Foundation and that nonprofit development organization. What direction can we take that? Where are the opportunities? So I see a lot of affirmation of those things, but also wanting more tools, wanting more support, more funding to deliver on these in communities large and small. So we heard this from the smallest communities in our region all the way up to the city of Omaha. So that's interesting. And I think I don't think it's probably a surprise to any of you in local government that housing is a major priority across the board. And then a nearly universal interest from every community in some form of trail or active mobility or recreation. Again, this is something that we've been a leader in. We're going to continue to work in. We've been investing a lot of our mini grant resources in active mobility plans. We just did Omaha and La Vista. That was the award I noted there. Bellevue's is underway. We have Papillion who applied this year. And really, I think finding a good locally driven framework for advancing some of those priorities, we're really excited about that. In addition to all the work we're doing around the Great American Rail Trail in Iowa, and really kind of being a partner to all those efforts. A lot of things going on in that space, and it was good to see that recognized. And then really at the kind of the top, I mean, these things were all clustered really at the top of the responses, was infrastructure funding. On the transportation side of things, really everything from street repairs to safety, and then a lot of water and wastewater requests that we're excited to sit down with communities and really try to figure out the right path forward. Some of those things really have to have kind of the right timing to secure those resources, but right in our wheelhouse to help support. Other things that were definitely mentioned, but I wouldn't say had as many communities kind of tagging them, were those downtown revitalization and placemaking opportunities. MAPA's role in kind of economic development, in kind of job creation. That's something that we get tapped into usually by our partners in the economic development organizations, not something we have to lead on our own. And then really kind of sustainability more generally, but I would say solid waste management in particular. There's a lot of conversations going on. I know the county in Douglas and Sarpy County are really active. We've been talking with folks at Pot and Mills just about retaking a look at some of that. There's some opportunity there, and we're continuing to work with Douglas County Environmental Services, who's really leading a lot of those conversations about where are some of those opportunities to move this work forward. And there were a couple of mentions of that. But I think, the takeaway I highlighted here, housing and infrastructure investment at the top of everyone's list. That's right in the wheelhouse of things that we're excited to do. Really excited to explore the housing stuff with this board as we get into that strategic planning effort later this year. And then one thing that we've been adding to our survey the last couple of years is really these professional development opportunities and peer exchange opportunities, and just trying to get a sense of what kind of sort of direct training, what kind of affinity groups do folks want to be a part of. Top of the list in like was this, again, like funding and grants. How do we position communities not just to apply for a grant, but actually do the work, the longer term work of positioning themselves to be in the right position? That goes back to this opportunity zones conversation. It goes back to some of the elected and appointed officials training that we do. It goes back to the League of Nebraska Municipalities Conference that we were just at earlier this week, talking about the role of economic development districts as well. So a lot of support for that. Economic development strategies, a lot of that was focused on some of the capacity building pieces that are highlighted there just below it. And then transportation planning and safety. So a lot of emphasis on, what do we do with some of this comprehensive safety action planning stuff? Where are the opportunities to actually put that stuff into practice? So a lot of opportunities for us to keep using the convening power that we have at MAPA. And really just bringing those partners to the table. This gives us I think, really clear sense of those priorities. And again, I would just say it aligns with the areas that we're pushing into. So excited about that. And so that's a real preview, I would say, of the member survey. But happy to answer any specific questions if there are any. Otherwise, we'll be digging a little deeper when we get into that work program in March over in the Council of Officials meeting. And I should note that's on March 11th. I didn't put that slide here, but you're all invited. March 11th, it's at Iowa Western Community College over the lunch hour. Happy to get you that information if you're interested.
This funding navigation is the one concerns. That's surprising. You would expect that. Is that in that way?
No, I don't think that surprises me at all. I think, I would say that's that's kind of what communities ask us for anyway. But I think this period of more uncertainty at the federal level, more uncertainty at the state level, I think everybody's kind of looking around and saying, okay, what could we be doing differently? And so I think it just elevates that kind of a role within, within a region and in support of communities. We're doing that behind the scenes anyway. We take lots of calls, we sit down with folks, we try to identify all of that. But to see it be kind of the top priority, not just for kind of how do we do this better as local communities, but we also want MAPA to help us with this specific project. People haven't always been that candid in the survey. Most of the times they're like, we're thinking about housing, or we're thinking about a new subdivision, or we're trying to get this street fixed. There was much more direct. So I think there's just a lot of maybe soul searching just about, okay, how are we going to do if we don't have as much flexibility with our local resources, if we don't have as many opportunities at the federal level, how do we put the pieces together? I think that work, that problem solving work, is probably no less important than it's ever been.
Any other questions for Mike or discussion?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to many of you know this, so thank you for doing that.
Agenda item E at this time is actually an opportunity for the public to comment on it. Liz, did we have anyone request? Okay, thank you. Agenda item F is the consent agenda. I can take all of these just during one vote unless any of the board wishes to pull them off. Item number 1 is our finance committee meetings from the February 18th meeting. And item 2 is final contract payments to Douglas County GIS at nearly 22,000 and to Potawatomi County GIS at just over 25. Would I have a motion to approve, or is there any discussion or questions?
Second.
There's no further questions or discussions. Liz?
Station,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shay.
Aye.
Shudak, yes. Winquist. Yes. And Dick.
Yes. Agenda item G is old business. Number 1 is a resolution for the 2026 through 12 Transportation Improvement Program, amendment number 4. Court.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. So on this amendment, you'll see 7 individual changes on the list, but it's really one overall change to the one program. So I'm updating the section 5310 program and FTA program to get it ready so that MAPA and both state DOTs can obligate some more regional funding to secure vehicles for local agencies, local paratransit agencies. So I'm basically just moving some funding into FY 2026. I'm moving some of the funding around related to the service contracts we provide to some of the local agencies in order to accommodate these vehicle purchases this year. And then I'm changing some of the way that we're showing these things in the tip to make it a little bit simpler to manage things in the tip. So I'm basically just kind of taking them out of I'm taking the individual agencies out of each line item and moving them into kind of a grouping for each of these projects to kind of say, like, these are the potential recipients of these funds, just kind of making it easier to see what exactly we're doing and being flexible with how I move funds around. But that's basically it. No other changes. We're not adding any funds or anything like that. I'm basically just moving some money up from the previous fiscal year and what's about.
Any questions on that? If not, would I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, Shudak.
If there's no further discussion, Liz?
Station,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shay.
Aye.
Shudak, yes. Winquist. Yes. And Dick.
Yes. Agenda number 2 is the resolution for statewide urban design and specifications board appointment. Court?
So every 2 years, MAPA appoints a member of a local Iowa community to represent the region on the statewide urban design specification board that is basically managed by Iowa State University. They basically handle the statewide specification manuals for urban design. In the past, we've appointed Matt Cox. He's expressed a willingness to continue serving in that role, the Public Works Director for Council Bluffs. And KeyTac is recommending that we go ahead and appoint Matt again, given those willingness to do so. This will be a 2-year appointment, and that's
Pretty straightforward.
requesting that appointment.
Unless there's discussion, motion to approve.
Simon.
Liz?
Station,
Yeah.
Brent,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
Clue,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shay,
Aye.
Hudak, yes. Lindquist, yes. And Dick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gord. Under agenda item H, number 2, the purchase, the board will, consider for approval, the purchase listed below, which is a Streetlight Data Incorporated. It's a 15-month contract, for subscription to access and use data products in the amount of $203,203. Do I have a motion?
Can I ask,
Yes.
what is for?
That's why I'm here. Good, thank you for asking. Streetlight is a software package to look at how vehicles, so think about the volume of vehicles on the roadways. This company collects and aggregates additional information from counts from vehicles that have connected computers. So think about the Navi computers that most vehicles have. They aggregate that data, put it into their little magic black box and spit out results. One of the things that we've noticed is in locations where local agencies are not able to get out and conduct a count. So a lot of your communities go out and conduct physical counts at intersections or corridors, but they might just do it once a year, right? This is continuously counting every single day of every single week in an entire year, and aggregates and estimates for fluctuations depending on time of year, et cetera, all that fun stuff that your engineers talk about. But this is a new data product that we're trying to use and understand better. One of the data products that we're looking for in this coming year is producing our biannual traffic report. That is based on the counts that you all collect. But again, we're gonna enhance that in areas where we haven't counted for, say, 4 or 5 years. Streetlight is gonna be the source of data that we're gonna check on to. So we're testing it out. This past year, we had this contract. It is terminating in March, and so we're starting a new contract, which is this one. But this past year, some of the things that we've done with the product is help and facilitate work with the city of Omaha to look at potential road closures. What is that impact, right? So you may have heard the news story of Military Avenue shutting down due to that construction for that viaduct. We helped and analyze some of the traffic and flows going in and through that area. So it provides an additional tool for local communities to verify some data that they may not have access to, right? Or their counts are older than 3 years and they want to get a sense of the order of magnitude.
So do we charge for that service to the municipalities?
Right now, the way we're trying to work with that is we're asking our local members that wish to participate to help us offset the local match, which would be 20%, right? We're gonna pay for this with federal funds. We're covering 80% of the total cost with federal funds. We still have that 20% gap, which for this contract amounts to about $40,000.
So you can use that at any time during the year?
Correct. The reason it is higher this year as well is we are augmenting this package with the truck analysis tool because we're taking on a regional freight study this year. We want to understand how this freight component within Streetlight works and understand it better. What values does it bring to the community? Is this a good resource to shop for or use in future years? All that is part of the stuff that we're looking
going forward, will they continue this grant for 80/20?
As long as we get PL dollars, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Is it truly counts or are you or will it collect other information?
So some of the things that we've been able to look at is speed.
Okay,
With our safety board, one of the things that we do with this tool right now, is help inform some of the speed allocation in some of these corridors. As you may have heard from some of your public works engineers, you sometimes have to go out and just do a traffic study to look at turn movements.
right.
And then a separate study to do, volume and speed data, right? And sometimes those two do not intermix. And so you're paying for two separate contracts. This gives them a sense of where it is, right? I am highly skeptical of any data tools myself. And so that's where we're starting to see how close they are to reality. We're doing some background work on our end, with my team, to verify how close they are, these kind of big data counts and numbers and speeds to actual numbers and speeds that we take, for different steps.
But it's not collecting data like on a flock where it would be capturing a license plate or something like
No,
that.
no,
and
no,
capturing.
no.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for Carlos on this? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Shudak.
There's no further discussion. Liz?
Station.
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
Luke,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shay,
Aye.
Shudak,
Yes.
Winquist. And Dave.
Yes. Agenda item B is the learning site visit for Detroit, for up to 20 visitors. Our budget on this for looking for approval is 43,840. Christina, you want to give us an update?
Sure, good afternoon. So we have, for the 2050 learning site visit planned for, this upcoming May. And so for anyone that's unfamiliar with these trips, it is an invitation only trip, to bring together a cohort of community leaders from our region. And the purpose is to visit those peer aspirational cities, learn about their projects, and programs, and then, how can those policies be adapted and implemented to enhance our communities here. So we've taken several trips to Dallas, Salt Lake City, Pittsburgh, Minneapolis, Indianapolis, and Charlotte most recently. And so this year we are proposing Detroit, Michigan in May, and for a total of 20 participants, including 5 MAPA staff, and then 15 regional leaders. So MAPA's expenses for this trip would include airfare, lodging accommodations, team meals, local transportation, transit fares, and then meeting and facilitation supplies. So we are requesting approval for that total dollar amount, and then we'll just scroll down to the table there. We do have a breakdown, so we will charge the guests that attend. We'll break this the amount down to per person cost, so you can see that below. If you scroll down slightly, so we're estimating around 2,192. So it's pretty consistent with our Charlotte trip. It'll consist of some team meals, and then several kind of on the ground, mobile workshops. And we also include some downtime to allow our travelers to do a little bit of exploring on their own. And I know we have a couple of our board members that are in attendance today that have been on these trips. So our admin team, Liz and myself, we do a lot of the groundwork on the logistical things. Liz most recently went on the Charlotte trip, so admin's really heavy into the logistics on these trips. And then Laura Heidelman, our communications and outreach manager, does a phenomenal job with programming and connecting that group with the local leaders on the ground in the cities that we're traveling to. So really exciting trip that we offer. And so we're asking for approval today. It does have a favorable recommendation from our finance committee. So asking for approval for total for 43,840.
Any other questions for Christina?
What's the specific date?
So we're working with our local partners in Detroit just to try to nail those dates down. So I've mapped out on those costs. essentially 4 different date ranges. So Laura's actually working with those local leaders there in Detroit, and we're hoping to nail those dates down shortly within the next week. And then we will then send out those invitations to our regional representatives that will be traveling.
In general, April, May, right? Is that?
May,
May,
yeah,
yeah.
May.
I saw, May.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a little hard because it's a lot of moving pieces on the Detroit side of things. And it's like, okay, if this thing doesn't work, then what do we backfill it with? And so we're just right at the.
Detroit or the Tulsa?
That's a good question. We can have that conversation. We should have that conversation.
Okay.
I think two different type of conferences. I think Detroit, you're gonna get hands-on specific to the Detroit area, to where the national or the conference in Tulsa will be a little bit of more of a regional outlook on things, maybe a little heavier on infrastructure,
Yeah.
that type of thing, to where in Detroit, I think you're gonna get maybe a little bit more picture on their entire city and maybe how transportation, everything ties in specifically for them.
Councilman or Keith? I know you-
Yeah, I'd like to say a few words.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to attend I was able to attend the Charlotte and the Indianapolis trips, and one of the byproducts of it is you get a lot of information from the host city. But the other benefit is you develop relationships with the other cohort, the other people in the group that go beyond just this trip. So there's relationships, with other people that have an interest in the things that we're talking about, and it really is a beneficial. For me, that was a very beneficial piece of the trip.
Yeah, and Councilman Rowe attended before he was on the MAPA board. So then maybe the genesis would attracted you, like a moth to flame. Keith, I don't know if you want to talk about your experience. You've been on a couple of these.
I would also echo that. I attended Indianapolis and Charlotte as well, and you meet folks and you see things in practice, and you come back with immediate implementable, is it implementable word? Immediate things you can do in your respective organization or city or county. And it was awesome. And as Councilman Rowe said, you network and build what we call the social infrastructure that we need to do work here together well. You build that on that trip. So it's phenomenal. I think Detroit's a great place, great option.
So you're thinking about a week or so before we have dates?
So 3 nights, to depart, potentially maybe depart on a Monday, come back on a Thursday or Tuesday through a Friday.
Everybody should be looking for that. It sounds like it'd be beneficial.
And then so with the approval, this will allow us to really hit the ground running and start, there's a lot of legwork on the group travel, particularly flights, lodging, so it'll allow us to start booking those accommodations as soon as we have those dates.
Well, let's get the money taken care of.
Yeah, Christine, right, you do hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Bring your credentials.
Will not be bored.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Liz?
Asian,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Shay,
Aye.
Shuda. Yes. Lindquist. Yes. Kendig.
Yes, agenda item or part C of agenda item H is the office planning project. Give us an update on that, Christina.
Sir, so MAPA has experienced quite a bit of growth, and one particular position that we have existing that the board has approved is for a deputy director. And so we have really run into some constraints with our physical space in the office, and so we are looking to do some updates to our office space, and so I am. Yeah, so a couple of reasons why we are looking at this is overall organizational growth in our leadership capacity, as I mentioned, to add that deputy director position. And then also just some changing with the staff and kind of how we're organizing our time. And so we do have some staff that work hybrid. And so one thing that we're looking at is adding a couple of hoteling stations to allow our staff to essentially check out a workstation. And that would give us some additional room to grow with our staff. So right now we have 25 current staff, 24 FTEs and 1 temporary, and we're really looking to add about 5 with that deputy director, a couple of transportation planners, and then some additional interns. And so that would push us to 31. And so what we're looking at with this project is adding an additional mill office. So we're at right now 7 private offices. So we're looking to add 1 additional office. Then we would also be required to do some reconfiguration of our existing workstations to allow for that office to be built, and then also add those 2 hoteling stations. So for this project, we've tried to address all of the costs at once. And so costs would include the construction of the 1 enclosed private office, reconfiguration of the existing workstations, the addition of the 2 hoteling stations, electrical and HVAC modifications. So we did present this project to Metro as their landlord, and have gained approval for these improvements in our office space. And so they have provided us with an approved vendor for electrical and HVAC modifications within our own office space. And then finally, private office furniture, and then additional workstation components and system parts, just to finalize any reconfiguration needs that we have. So if you'll just scroll down to the spreadsheet on my quote comparison. So I did gather quotes for both the enclosed private office, and then for the reconfiguration of our existing workstations. We are going to retain the vendor for our current product just to ensure consistency on that. And so total for the enclosed office, we're looking at $20,130. For the reconfiguration of the existing workstations and the addition of the 2 hoteling stations, we're looking at $14,703.61. For electrical, $6,965, and that vendor would be Kidwell. That's the approved vendor through Metro Transit. And then Waldinger for HVAC is $885. And that's just to ensure the proper airflow and in that new enclosed office, since we're going to be closing off that space. And then the office desking for the private office, we're looking at about $7,793, and then office seating as well for around $17,000. So total project cost we're looking at. Go back to the agenda. Looking at around $52,176. So I did go back and look at previous leasehold improvements, date back to December 2017. Those are the last major kind of inter-office infrastructure improvements that we made. So we're going about on 8 or 9 years since we've made any serious modifications to our workstations and our space. So with your approval today, we are looking to authorize the one-time purchases with funds from cash reserves. And we're very excited to get that office built so we can put our deputy director position out there. And I am happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I would have, remind me where we're at with our length of contract with Matt.
Sure. So we are currently on a month-to-month lease. So we had a 5-year lease that expired, I don't even know, Matt, 5 years ago? I think it expired right when you came on board. So
Yeah, 21 or 22.
yeah, so it's been about 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. And so Metro, kind of this building being a federally participating asset, that is that they use federal funds to both build it and then operate it. They have to approve each lessee in the building. And so we renegotiated a new rate. It was slightly higher than where we are today, but still well below what we were able to see in other real estate opportunities around this area in general, but even a much broader view of opportunities. So the last step that was taken in that is that new lease agreement was sent to FTA for their approval of our use of Metro Transit space. We have not heard back on that. Metro has not indicated that they have heard back. And so Metro has just indicated that we are on month to month until that is approved. Now, they want us here. So I would just know like it's no animosity there. But this is one of these kind of holding patterns that we've been in, just trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this space? Metro is making a number of improvements to this building over the next year. They're upgrading all the windows, key card access. I'll believe it when I see it, but key card access and a number of HVAC and lighting things throughout the building as well. And so this kind of, you know, we're gonna have sawdust in the kitchen, like it's kind of a good time as well. But it also, as Christina noted, it really allows us to align the space that we have here with the staffing that the board has approved. And so really looking ahead to all of that.
Is that a 5-year contract that we're trying to get?
It would be, I think 5 years is the maximum. So FTA requires,
so-
FTA requires a review of lease rates every 5 years to make sure that they're not getting in too sweetheart of a deal, that, you know, they're basically taking it out to the market to make sure that they're not giving away the space for free.
So
that's
not to be my normal smart ass self, by the time they approve that, does the 5 years start when they approve it?
Yes.
Okay, because if not, it might be expired by the time they approve it. That's why, yeah.
It's not really in our best interest to get a more expensive lease, so I don't poke that bear too often, but we have noted that we're working on it.
Exactly, great, okay.
Technically, we could be kicked out in 30 days. Probably don't have to.
Yeah, technically, but I don't see that happening.
2 questions. How long we been here?
Since 1980 something. So we used to be at 7200 Center Street until the 80s when, you know, they found asbestos in the building and closed it down. So
Next question. What is the balance of our reserves at this time?
2.1 million at the start of this fiscal year, and it's just grown since then.
And I'm sorry, a couple of things I forgot to mention is the cost does include, freight, installation, and so we really try to take a holistic approach and estimate all of the costs that may be involved. In addition to that, I wanted to share that we are going to be publishing a survey to our staff, and we're just going to really be looking overall at like the workstations and kind of how our staff want to, if they're interested in that private, you know, cubicle, or if they're wanting to check out the workstation. So we're going to take a very holistic approach and just take the pulse with our staff and make sure that you know, whatever changes we're making are work really well with their workflow. So looking forward to this. Like I said, it's been since 2017, and yes, I was around then. And so it's been a little while since we've done some major improvements in the office.
They promised us key cards then too, so.
And we do have about a 4 to 6 week lead time that we're looking at once we finally, you know, put pen to paper and sign a contract. And as Mike mentioned, Metro has some pretty serious improvements that they're going to be doing in construction that's going to be disruptive to work. So we are ideally trying to align these 2 projects and really minimize the disruption for our teams. You know, as most likely when some of those bigger projects are going on, they'll be remote. And so we're hoping to align that and minimize how.
And I just want the staff to know that if I'm asking questions and stuff, and I think I can speak for some of the council members, as elected officials from both states right now, we're looking at property cap. We're looking at loss of revenue, having to cut services back. We all know the chaos and the uncertainty of what's happening at the federal level. We're also looking at a business community that's starting to lay a lot of individuals off and stuff, which can affect the long-range plan of MAPA. And Matt, I know you've addressed all of this, and that the financial outlook for MAPA is really strong. But when we ask questions and can we be kicked out in 30 days and what would we do? At least from my elected perspective, that's kind of why we're asking them questions. We don't expect you to continue to be working in the closet and that type of stuff. So I just thought I should, you know, make that clear to everybody.
We should find a closet for Matt. That's a good idea.
Tents, I'm good at putting up tents, so if we have Quonset huts,
If there's no further discussion, would I have a?
Could I make a slight comment, just so when you make the motion, I would just recommend you consider a 10% increase to whatever your number was, 52,000. So say maybe 57, it would give us a little bit of over. That way we don't have to come back and ask again if we go over. We have 80,000 budgeted in the cash.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest it, but I would definitely, that would increase that then to, why don't we just round it off? It'd be a little bit more, but just round it off at 58,000 then?
Sure.
That'd be about 10 point something % increase for contingency.
And as Matt alluded to, in our cash reserve plan at the start of the year, we had 80,000 kind of blocked out for this. And so we're
below that.
we're within
anyway.
that range of 58.
Second, Shudak.
Okay, no further discussion. Liz?
Musical chair.
Station.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shay.
Aye.
Shudak.
Yes.
Winquist. Yes. Kennedy.
Yes. Item number 3 is new contract for Felsberg, Holt, and Usually for the Bennington Trail and Parks Plan in the total of $85,000. Carlos, update?
That is pretty much it. This is part of our task order for Parkland 2050 mini grants. It is just doing a park and trail plan for the city of Bennington. We anticipate this to be a 9 to 12 month contract, so it's gonna take us 9 to 12 months to get it done complete, turned in and out the door.
Questions or discussion for Carlos? If not, motion?
So move. Second.
Jill?
Station.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shay.
Aye.
Shudak.
Yes.
Winquist. Yes. Kennedy.
Yes. Agenda item I is discussion on the NARC conference in Tulsa. Do you have anything else to add to that, Mike?
Yeah, just on Supervisor Shea's question regarding, kind of the learning site visit versus Tulsa, I would say this has traditionally been kind of a smaller group of folks from this region going. But I would say, the opportunity at the Tulsa conference is really going to be to kind of meet with a lot of those other leaders that are serving on, policy boards like this or like on the RPA board. And, it's really kind of that peer exchange of elected officials who run for a specific local office and get an opportunity to serve on these kinds of boards, by virtue of the office they hold and getting kind of that more regional perspective. I would say the learning site visit, it's a larger group of folks from this region. And, to both Councilman Rowe and to Mr. Station, his comment, I think the purpose of that is really to kind of build the collaborative, sort of partnerships that we have here locally. And you'll hear a lot about one kind of specific community, and so I think they're both valuable. They're valuable in different ways. And I would say, to your question, kind of what you want to get out of it. I think you can probably anticipate more about what the NARC conference would be versus the site visit. But I'd encourage you to talk to either of these gentlemen about what the learning site visit is. Yeah.
Versus Council Bluffs City.
Mm-hmm.
So what would I get more out of, if I see
Yeah.
Detroit, I see more.
Yeah.
City.
It is more urban. We're attempting to go to some of the smaller communities in the metro, but those are more of the, the Papillions or even, Council Bluffs that they're still pretty large. I would say you probably find more county board representatives of, mixed kind of urban rural counties at the NARC conference down in Tulsa, and certainly a broader purview of, what regional organizations like MAPA are doing. They're both really valuable and we'd be welcome.
I can send you a link to their
Yeah.
website. You can kind of see what they
Please
offer.
do.
But,
Yeah.
where'd you send it?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I'll just send it to all of the board members. And so
Thank
we
you.
are hoping to take this, bring this back to the board in March,
Yeah.
for that travel request. So, if you are interested, if you want to give Liz and I a heads up, then we'll, be sure to add you to that list, prepare that travel authorization. It doesn't lock you into anything, but it would just give us a good idea of, what we're bringing back here in March.
Great.
Excellent. All right, lots of information and I'm still gonna make a motion. We get a clock put up there though.
Yeah. We've had a clock that just.
I understand. Include that in that 10% that we just.
You got it, Willie.
There we go. So, is there any other additional business or comments from the commissioners? If not, I would make a motion to adjourn. Wish everybody a safe travels back and we will see you in 4 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.